Police in the province say they are concerned about an escalation in killings in different parts of the province. In the space of less than 72 hours, over 10 people were shot dead in separate incidents. At least 7 people suffered serious injuries. Let's bring in SABC News reporter Bongani Gema for more on the story. Bongani, thank you for your time. So how's the situation in KZN following the shootings?
Well, thank you, Mkolisi. Well, it's common knowledge now that gun violence is a huge problem here in our province of KwaZulu-Natal. As you mentioned in your intro, 3 shootings, separate incidents this week alone. At least 10 people were left dead. So already, it has brought a long-standing issue into sharp focus again, Mkolisi. But to give us, the perspective from authorities, I have with me the spokesperson for the Department of Transport and Community Safety, so we thank you very much for your time. 3 separate incidents this week, but they are just a part of many that have claimed scores of lives here in our province. What does government make of these shootings?
It seems clear that in our communities we've got brazen and heartless criminals who are hell-bent at causing violence and bloodshed in our province. We are taking these incidents very seriously, and that is why the MEC in KwaZulu-Natal, MEC Sipho, has instructed the police to urgently and swiftly attend to these cases, make sure that these criminals, including the hitmen, are brought to book. We want to see the suspect being arrested, and we want to see stability, mainly in the public transport industry. Most of these incidents are involving operators in the taxi industry, but there is also a new trend that we are witnessing now that involves the e-hailing services as well, some of the operators in that space. But as the department, we are making interventions in those areas. We are focusing on the taxi industry, making sure that those associations where there are problems, we attend to them. But there are also associations where you find that the associations are stable, but there are targeted hits that are happening in awkward hours of certain operators, and we've said to the police they must get to the bottom of those, make sure that they are able to break those cases. The provincial taxi task team is currently dealing with those cases, and we are quite optimistic that the sooner they make arrest, it will be the better, so that we can see a sharp decline of these incidents. It cannot continue to be like this, and we cannot continue to be a province where people who are so brazen can just kill people in a broad daylight. In some of the footages that you see, there are even bystanders and innocent people who are not involved in public transport operations who could have been hurt in some of these shootings. So it's quite a serious matter. We are doing all we can as government, and we will be meeting, the MEC will be meeting with the police in the province and all other agencies to say how do we then work together to stabilize the industry, but proactively arrest these criminals before they even commit crime. I think you've seen an incident where we're able to intercept some of the criminals in Katomena before they even committed crime. We'll want to see more of those. We'll want to improve intelligence operation so that proactively we are able to intervene. But we are also concerned about the involvement of the security industry in the taxi industry. We are working with SIRA, the private security regulatory industry, to say how do we identify and vet some of these security companies, including the personnel that are involved, and also the firearms that are being used, to make sure that these are legal and legitimate firearms that are not used elsewhere to commit crime.
But it's clear that, communities are held under siege by people who are heavily armed and are just using, those weapons willy-nilly. Why is there not a program led by government to make sure that we disarm people in communities who are very heavily armed?
Well, there is. We reported quite recently that in the month of February alone, about 8,000 people were arrested in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and about 345 of those were arrested because of the murders, and also a number of firearms were collected, illegal firearms that are in the hands of civilians. So police are doing their work. We are doing our best to make sure that at least we are able to reduce these incidents. But there seems to be a well-organized, a well-orchestrated operation within the taxi industry of hitmen who are operating day and night, making sure that they eliminate operators in the public transport industry. That is where our focus is. We've got our provincial regulatory entity, the body within the department, that is working on that, working with the police in scanning some of these associations that are notorious, where we are experiencing these killings, and also zooming in to the security companies that are operating there. Like I've said, we are having problems with these security companies, some of them who are allegedly hiding some of the criminals and the hitmen within themselves. So this is quite a serious concern that we are dealing with. But broadly, we are also looking at a number of interventions, including the implementations of the resolutions of the National Taxi Lekgotla, where there are a number of resolutions were taken, including the issue of the elimination of cash within the taxi industry, because we believe that if we have not arrested the frequenting of cash in the taxi industry, we'll not be able to get to the bottom of these challenges. So we are forging ahead with the issue of the cashless system. We are also considering other measures, including how do we regulate the taxi industry in terms of the security that is being used in the taxi industry. There are a number of other interventions, including the use of technology, so that we are able to eliminate these conflicts and the root causes of some of these killings that are happening.
It may be predominant in the taxi industry, but you know there's this, in Zulu they are known as Inkabi. They live among us in communities. Is there a program, to make sure that communities are equipped in ways to make sure that they also, assist authorities or law enforcement in bringing these people to book?
Well, these are dangerous and heavily armed people, and we urge communities where they see them not to confront them, but however to engage the police, to report them to the police, so that police can proactively be able to intercept and arrest them. We have witnessed in some cases where these criminals, even bystanders, community members, have been hurt in a crossfire. We'll want to eliminate those incidents, but we are also, like I've said, we are also profiling most of these security companies in the industry, because when they come, they disguise with vehicles like as the security, only to find out later that these were hitmen who were targeting certain individuals and operators. So we need to separate the security industry that is legitimate in the taxi industry and the hitmen. That is why we are delving deeper to say, how do we identify, how do we vet and scan those security companies, so that we are able to eliminate these things. But as government, we are working very hard to stabilize the taxi industry. Out of the 246 taxi associations in the province, majority of them are enjoying fair stability. They are quite peaceful. There are no internal squabbles or whatsoever. However, there are these pockets of killings which are troubling the province, and we are getting to the bottom of them.
There's also another entrant into the scene where we're now seeing drug dealers, where we're seeing mass shootings of drug dealers in communities. We know that our communities have a huge problem, of drugs. What programs do you have when it comes to this?
Well, we've got a provincial drug master plan, which is led by the Department of Social Development. We are also participating as the Justice Crime Prevention Cluster of the province in dealing with the issue of drugs. If you have noticed, there's been many breakthroughs that are being made in the province, in the areas of Mtateni, going up to Bluff and other areas. There has been a lot of work that we have put in dealing with these drug traffickers, and also the issue of the proliferation of drugs in general in the province. But there are also kingpins that we are following who are at the center of these operations of drugs. But what we have witnessed, not only in areas like Chatsworth, even in townships like Umlas, Hammersdale, where there's been group of killings, the killing of gangs who are involved in drug trafficking and so forth, the territorial issues. These are the issues that the communities as well, they know. We urge them to report these matters to the police. We urge them to proactively alert us so that we can deal with these issues. But also our structures like the CPFs, community policing forums and other structures in the communities are working hard with the police to identify these individuals, so that at least we'll be able to bring them to book.
I know that as a department you regularly engage with the police. Has there been maybe any headway made when it comes to the recent killings that we've seen here in the province?
Well, police are following leads. We are quite positive that in most of these cases they are going to make breakthroughs. We have said we don't want only the arrest of the hitmen, we also want the arrest of the orchestrators. We also want those who are behind paying these hitmen, because they are being paid lump sum of money. This is a lucrative industry where people are being paid a lot of money. I think we've seen even in some of the broadcast various episodes where some of these hitmen have been revealing some information on the modus operandi and their operations. So it's showing that there's a lot of money that is involved in this, and we'll want to see this coming to an end. That is why we are saying the elimination of cash in the tax industry is quite a big project. We are going to face resistance, we know, but we are determined as government to work flat out on that issue, making sure that we introduce mechanisms and measures that will reduce cash in the tax industry. Once you end cash in the tax industry, that will be one step closer to ending this bloodshed and violence. So these are the matters that we are working on. We are also exploring other interventions as well to say we need to look at the implementation of the whole resolutions that were taken at the Lekgotla. There are a number of them which are aimed at professionalizing and stabilizing the taxi industry and all other public transport modes in the province. Thank you very much.
Well, Mxolisi, that is the spokesperson of the Department of Transport and Community Safety, Wanele Ngalani, just outlining to us the different programs they have to fight the scourge of shootings here in the province, because you know it's predominant in the taxi industry, but also politically motivated killings, also drug dealers. So it is a huge problem that is killing people from different walks of life, Mxolisi.
Right, Bongani, as we continue to have this conversation, just before I let you go, the plans as well as the conversations around gun violence has been going for a very long time now. And when you listen to some of those grand plans, as well as the various interventions that even the spokesperson they spoke to you about, do you think this time we are sort of likely to see something actually happen and filter through the ground where it matters the most?
Well, Mxolisi, as you say, it's been a long-standing issue, Mxolisi, so it's very difficult to say, should we indeed really have faith in this program that they are putting through. But now, Mxolisi, I remember in the States of the Province address, the Premier did mention that they are making sure now that they are speaking to different stakeholders, even Namakosi, Mxolisi, because another issue was that communities were saying that police are sort of acting alone in this program, so they need communities to also play a part. As we heard the spokesperson say, community members shall not engage them, Mxolisi, but communities really should know when they see something, fishy, so alert the police. So the Premier of the province saying that there are, communities where they've seen community gatherings or groupings that have been put together. They'll make sure that they train them adequately and equip them adequately to make sure that this is not a problem that is only faced for law enforcement, but the whole province really should come together and make sure that we end this case that has really put our province in a really bad light.